Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast. My name's Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Mike, and we are here to moan about VAR once again. Oh, maybe not as much as last week, although there were still a few contentious decisions, although on the whole, it was run a lot better this weekend, you have to say. Sabitzer should have been sent off, shouldn't he? I thought the ref got it right. Maybe he should have had a booking, but he didn't follow through with his challenge on the Leicester defender and say... I think that's a one that's opinion based. West Ham, for the second week in a row, almost, I think, we have saved a penalty. Well, our defenders saved us with a ball. Should have been a penalty again. They've applied the same rule, even though the guy didn't fall over. But you can't get everything right. I mean, who's got video replays to look at these things? And Nick Pope sent off for an instinctual gather of the ball after he headbutted the floor outside of his box, which I think is a little bit harsh. They're saying, it denied Mo Salah's goal scoring opportunity. He was already 15 yards past him by that point. I don't know what the Liverpool fans are moaning about. And so the only other one that they looked at, which again is a bit contentious, is Jorginho's goal where it bounced off Martinez's head. Fantastic strike though. But the line of sight thing, load of bollocks if you're asking me. But yeah, Mike, another win, trotting up in the Premier League, or heading the race, I should say, for Arsenal. Are you feeling confident of bringing home that title again?
No, I'm still not. I think as long as there's the current officials in the league. No, I'm not confident about anything. Just going on that whole line of sight thing, I was watching Ref Watch earlier, and they showed a view from behind the goal, and you could see Martinez, and you see Odegaard and Nketiah literally standing either side of him, and you had two Aston Villa defenders right in front of Martinez.
Yep.
And obviously Jorginho smacked it, and it was funny because when you watch the video of it, if you haven't already, go and check it out on Sky Sports. But as soon as they realised that it was either side of him, they went to kind of like the side-on view where it looks like they're basically blocking Martinez, and they didn't go back to that view. It's just something I noticed earlier. It was quite funny, but yeah, that was a difficult game, that one, against Aston Villa. I'm sure we'll come on to it in more detail in a bit anyway. But yeah, I was frustrated with that game. I don't get me wrong. I think Aston Villa did really well, but I think for all the time wasting that Martinez did throughout that game, I think he definitely got his comeuppance with the result and going up for the corner right at the end, which you can see if you watch the post-match interview with Unai Emery. He was fuming, which was hilarious. The scoreline definitely flattered us, but yeah, there's as you said, there's some other decisions through VAR, which was. I think they're always going to have an answer for their decisions. I think on the most part, just back on the Lee Mason thing, he's obviously now been sacked. Apologies if I'm stealing your thunder there.
No.
But I think it's there was one interview I was watching. They're saying I was a little bit harsh. That he's obviously been vindicated for the wrongdoing. Mikel Arteta, get over it. And I was like, it's not the first time he's done it. And that's all I was thinking. And it wasn't until someone else had said it that he'd obviously had the suspension from running VAR earlier on in the season, that she kind of shut up a little bit. And I was just like, I would understand. I really would understand if it was your first time. You've got a squeaky clean record up until that time. Mistakes can be made. Human error, I get it. But the fact that you've already been suspended for a previous incident, once bitten, twice shy, I think is the saying you need to use in this instance, especially with the amount of money that's involved in the Premier League when it comes to positions where you finish, etc. And I kind of think that had that decision not gone for us, then there's our 2 points back, if you like. For that mistake. So I can kind of see it, but It was interesting actually. Dermot Gallagher said these things are kind of subjective because it's proving that the goalkeeper in that instance can't see the ball, or but the way they kind of justified it is that the flight of the ball, the distance from goal, it would have given him ample opportunity. And let's be honest, I don't think he was that far from saving it anyway. I think where he did have that slight adjustment or slight delay, he's it's obviously been an unfortunate circumstances where it's hit the bottom of the crossbar. And I've got to say, once a gunner, always a gunner, gives us that that vital win we needed.
Lovely headed goal, wasn't it? You got to admit.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'd be running up the pitch with my shirt off on that one.
It's one of those things that Unai Emery doesn't seem to like him or his antics. Obviously, we know that he likes to play the mind games when it comes to penalties. He won the Golden Glove at the World Cup and was a little bit indistinct, I suppose, with his trophy presentation. Is that running up for the last minute corner the final straw of him? Quite possibly. I think if they could have got someone in January without paying through the teeth, they probably would have done. But where does he go from here? He seems to have a bit of a fall from grace as it is, because his next club might be looking at maybe his attitude towards the game of football. Has he got too big for his boots, so to speak? But yeah, so the other thing I was going to bring up, which I think is a valid point, is Manchester, or a club in Manchester, may yet win the title, but it's not the one that everyone thinks. And for me, at the moment, Erik ten Hag has got to win Manager of the Season. And that might sound a little bit strange, but with coming into that squad the way it was, dealing with the biggest name in world football, throwing his toys out the pram and trying to turn the world against you and the club, and still producing the football they're producing while bringing through some younger players, they're still on for the quadruple. That's the scary thing. Maybe not the Champions League, but it's still a definite achievement, I think. And think of what he can do if they do get taken over. The Glazers are sitting firm on their £6 billion pound valuation, which I think is a little bit steep considering how much work has got to go into Old Trafford. But they have taken note in some of the things that Ronaldo said about the training grounds. They have started to upgrade that and bringing in like a new yoga studio and things like that. So maybe he wasn't wrong completely, just wrong the way he goes about it. But their bitter rivals Liverpool, he said they're not for sale. Yeah, that's all the news on that. No one really cares. Hopefully they rot and die and go back to playing in National League.
So I just touching on that then.
Oh, sorry.
Based on the conversations that we've had previously,
yes,
about the run of fixture, the run of results and all that sort of stuff. Now he's come out and said that the club isn't for sale conveniently after the transfer window is closed. Do you see that Jurgen Klopp's position could still be under fire? If I know they've hit a couple of good results, obviously against Everton and bloody hell, who'd they play at the weekend? Whoever they played at the weekend, Newcastle. Sorry, yeah. So a couple of good wins for them, especially against one of the teams with the best defences in the league this year. Do you think if they start then losing or drawing unnecessary games that his job can be under pressure again?
No, I don't think so. As I said before, I don't think they'll get rid of him. Certainly not before the end of the season. It's one of those things that because he's been there for so long. It would, and the fact that they've always been a mid-table team. It would be, I think, a knee-jerk reaction to get rid of him, because who do you bring in to replace him? They're going to still have that same struggle with the injuries and the aging squad and things like that. Possibly a pivot in the off-season, but I think they'll let him see it out.
Okay. Sorry, carry on.
The other one, though, the other big club that's faltering at the minute, James Ward-Prowse put them to the sword with another fantastic free kick, 1-0 away from David Beckham's all-time Premier League record of free kicks, and that is Chelsea. To lose to bottom of the table, Southampton 1-0 at home is something. Now they're struggling for goals. Some of their build-up play is phenomenal, and I think Southampton, the young goalkeeper Bazunu, I think his name is, played really well. Kept him at bay. But do you think it's only a matter of time until this Chelsea team click and they start running riot? Or do you think Graham Potter will leave before or be relieved of his duties before that point?
I'll be honest, mate. It's a difficult one, and I could see it from either side, because looking at some of the performances, I think it was a game against you last weekend. Not weekend, just gone, the weekend before that. For the first 25, 30 minutes, they were absolutely running riot. And obviously you caught them on against the run of play. And I think it took the wind out of their socks a little bit. But yeah. I'll be honest with you. I do think it will be only a matter of time before they do start clicking. But I think it will come at a cost of Graham Potter, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, we had this conversation, I think, a good couple of months ago about Graham Potter being appointed as the Chelsea manager.
Yeah.
And I personally, it was just my opinion that I think it was the wrong timing for Graham Potter. Was doing wonders at Brighton. Obviously, that they've kicked on significantly since he's left.
Yep.
But I still think he was possibly one job away. But again, when you have a club such as Chelsea coming in for you, it becomes very difficult to turn it down. But at the same time, do you then jeopardise your future managerial career, or would you say that he's built up enough tickets, so to speak, if another club comes along a bit lower down to kind of give him the chance?
I think there are a number of clubs who would jump at the opportunity to take him, if I'm honest. I think I can't see that he's not trying to put any philosophies in place at Chelsea. I know he struggled for periods at Brighton, but they never had a striker really. They had Neil Maupay, who's good for probably 5 goals a season. You go to Chelsea, they've thrown 600 million at it, and some of the play they're playing is really good, but they haven't got an out and out striker. Well, they have, but he's on loan in Milan. And I think that's where they're struggling really. Kai Havertz isn't a striker. They've brought in João Felix, who looks really good, but again, there is an adjustment period, not only for a new club, but all those new players coming in. They've got to figure out time to where each other's going to be without thinking about it. And I just don't think they're gelling quick enough and implementing his philosophies maybe on the pitch. And I think there is a little bit of a divide between the old guard and the new players, so to speak, with contract standoffs and things like that. It's a very difficult situation to manage. I mean, I'd take him. It's not the best, but you're going to get sort of that ticky-tacky passy football. I think they were unlucky against us not to have a penalty, and they had 2 goals ruled off for offside as well, which were very close. So, yeah.
Here's a question for you, just in relation to strikers. Obviously, there's 2 parts to my question. So one, obviously they, as you mentioned, Lukaku's applied his trade in a different league again, only on loan. But do you think they now have the players in order to fit his playing style if he were to come back? Is question 1.
Potentially, I think if you say to him, it's a difficult one, because he's not the same player he was when he was at Everton and he was a bit younger and a bit more mobile. He's now getting on in his career. He is still a unit, but they've now got the players where they can sort of say to him, just stay in the box, get on the end of things. He does know where the goal is. He's big, he's strong. You think if you've got Enzo Fernandez, Sterling, even Mudryk, all right, he's not he's not hit the heights, but you can see there's something there. Get all those fast, sort of skillful players running by you, they're going to get goals. He's going to get goals. And if his only job is to stay on that penalty spot, Ian Wright made a career out of it. Do you know what I mean? He went down as one of the best strikers ever. So, yeah, I think they could, but is it time to cut their losses with him maybe and go elsewhere for maybe someone that is a little bit younger, a bit more mobile, even in a swap deal so it doesn't really cost anything? But yeah, I think he would probably you'd get more of a tune out of him than the way that Tuchel played.
So part 2 of my question then is obviously he is someone that is very close to, I wouldn't say hearts, but Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Obviously he's been dropped from the European squads. Do you think that he's burnt all bridges in terms of Chelsea now? Or do you reckon there could be a way back into the Chelsea fold? Certainly in the league when they are crying out for goals. I know he's not been anywhere near prolific as he was for us or for Barcelona. Do you think again that Chelsea just weren't playing to his strengths, or do you reckon that's his time done?
I think his time was done the season he signed that big contract with you. I think he went, that's it, I don't need to try anymore. I've done my bit, I've put in my graft, and I'm now retired, essentially. Obviously he went to Barcelona and was a bit more prolific, but I think I'd be prolific at the top of a Barcelona team, even if they're a misfiring one. You'd never like to say never. He's still a player that is registered in the Premier League, I believe. So, yeah, he's an asset. He can score a goal. He is very experienced, so there is no reason why there couldn't be a time where he does come on. I don't see him making many starts because he's not agile. He's not the speed merchant he once was. And it's a case of where Chelsea are. You want to put out not only your best 11, but the 11 you know are going to really fight and grind to try and get that. Is Aubameyang that? I don't think so. It's
agreed.
It's a difficult one. I mean, here's the thing. Marcus Rashford, right? A year ago, they could have signed him probably pretty cheap and would have been a decent striker. At the minute, hottest prospect in Europe, possibly the world in terms of strike force. He looks like he'll probably end up signing a new deal now. He's only got a year to run. But he's playing phenomenal football under Erik ten Hag. And I know there was some question marks about him at the beginning of the season. But it just shows if a manager can give that striker a little bit of confidence, a little bit of backing, and play to his strengths, they do phenomenal things. Any other season, he would end up as a top goal scorer. Unfortunately, Erling Haaland is a thing. Depending on what happens with Man City and fines and sanctions, which I don't think there will be much, certainly not anytime soon, could he play at Chelsea? That direct style of just trying to get the ball forward, he would probably suit it, same as he would at Man United. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I don't think Graham Potter would be shy of suitors. Southampton are looking for a manager, Leeds are looking for a manager, West Ham potentially looking for a manager. Well, there's a bit more of an update on that. But yeah, it's one of those. I think he would fit into any of those. Even possibly Bournemouth, I think they might pivot towards him. But and again, then you've got a number of top tier Championship clubs who will probably want to try and take that next step. You know full well and good, you've got to give someone time. Arsenal 2.5 years ago, there were still cries for Arteta to be sacked. Some of the football you were playing was awful. You gave him the time, you gave him the resource, you let him build the team around him what he wanted to, not only on the pitch but backroom. You're now sitting pretty top of the Premier League with a game in hand. So it's a double-edged sword. Do you take a little bit of misery to build the project, which was what the idea was, or do you cut and change as often as Chelsea did to try and keep up the top? Difficult one. Is really difficult one. And I think Chelsea fans, unfortunately, are not used to the building of a project because they under Abramovich, he would have already been gone. 10 games ago, he would have been gone. But Bowley did come in, make the noises about, well, there's more here. There's lots of strings we want pulled in the same direction, and that's going to be a big job. It's going to take time. I think it comes down to how it's affecting the bottom line. Don't forget, season they won the Champions League the first time, they finished 10th. So it wouldn't be impossible for them to do it again with the team they've got. Yeah. Never say never again, but if he turns around and finishes 10th but wins the Champions League, is that a good season? Is it a bad season? Is it somewhere in the middle? I don't know. But yeah, so
fair point.
Managers. Well, let's talk about managers. Southampton without a manager. So it did look like Jesse Marsh had left Leeds and was going to go to Southampton. That fell through because of something to do with a long-term contract. Southampton didn't want to give him the time that he wanted. I think he wanted a 5-year contract, which I think is quite long for a manager now, unless you're going into a top-tier club. I think that's quite a long contract. So they're still on the hunt for a manager. Leeds obviously haven't replaced him as of yet. So they're still looking for a manager. Everton have just replaced theirs. We know that. Sean Dyche is working wonders. Two wins in 3 games. Is a long way from where they were. Now at the relegation battle. And West Ham United. So I did do a little video on it earlier on the West Ham side of the channel, the Bearded Hammer channel, about should he be sacked and where should we go from here. But since doing that as of this morning, what I have realised is, what I have heard through the grapevine is they're going to give him one more game. If he doesn't win against Nottingham Forest at home, he's gone. Now, I have my own opinions on if you're at that point, he should be gone already. But what do you make of that? Do you give the guy one more game against Nottingham Forest, who are still they're pulling away from relegation, but they're still within falling distance, only 5 points ahead of us? Do you give him that game, or do you try and pivot and change it because everyone else has, and it's working wonders for some of the other teams around?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I mean, some of the changes that we've seen, certainly over the last couple of years, have been or appear to be in strange times. I mean, looking at the start of the season that you guys had, I think we both said it, that the more sensible time would have been over the course of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Because you would have got new manager in, kind of a little mini pre-season sort of thing, being able to assess what players that you have, see where you need to strengthen and all this sort of stuff. Now it seems like it's going to be a very difficult job to follow, in the terms of they must have some sort of idea already as to who they want to come in.
Yeah.
So again, I kind of see it from both sides, because I mean, depending on the performance that you put in against Nottingham Forest, will go one of two ways. Either you'll win, but depending on the quality of the performance, you may not get a clear understanding of where David Moyes is trying to go with the club and all the players and stuff. So you're not really learning anything. In which case, pull the plug. If you guys lose, pull the plug. Because I think he's been given a fair crack of the whip already this season. And it may be the case that you've got the players not putting in the shift. I think you've said it a couple of times that you think he's lost the dressing room, and there seems to be kind of like a discord between the manager and the players and the upper echelons of the club not really knowing. I don't know. It's a really difficult one, because looking at the performances that you guys were putting in last year was absolutely phenomenal. And I don't understand how you can go from being as well as you were last year. Granted, I know you had a lot more games and stuff last year because the European competition more so than you've had in previous seasons. But I'd say that the squad is mainly unchanged, but maybe that's the problem. But then again, obviously you've tried to make some signings in order to rectify that with Skamaka and Danny Ings. I know he's got injuries, and but it's I really don't know. I really don't know how to answer that one, if I'm being completely honest.
From the West Ham perspective, when you look at it, Chelsea being the anomaly season, they've sent 600 million. We're the third highest spenders in the Premier League this year, £178 million, which is phenomenal. So I think, unfortunately, the board, if they had a different manager in, may have that spending may have hit better. Not saying the players we've bought are bad by any means, but they're not being played to their strengths. But there was two things that he said. Which I think I would have sacked him on the spot. One come out in the midweek, which was him saying, "We can't always expect to be at the top of the table. We can't be expected to win every game. We have to try and grind some points out." Now, for me, I know when you look at it, you go, you get your schedule at the beginning of the season. You go, right, we've got Manchester City there. That's we're not going to win that. We got Liverpool there. We're not going to win that. You still try and win, and if you get something out of it, fantastic, because we have beaten both of those teams. But to say, oh, you can't expect it, it sounds like you're not trying to win. And then to be playing against a Tottenham team who are the worst for conceding very early, and play 5 defenders and 3 defensive midfielders, and then after the game say, well, we need to create more chances. Well, you're not going to do that if you don't play any fucking attackers, are you? Do you know what I mean? It's just really frustrating. And the fact, all right, we got a draw against Chelsea. We were lucky with that. VAR helped us in that respect. We lost to Tottenham. VAR helped us in that respect because they didn't give another handball, which they should have done. In those 2 instances, should those 2 players have been sent off for the same reason of denying a clear goal scoring opportunity? Well, both those shots were on target. So it could have been 2 red cards if VAR is applied consistently, as it was to Nick Pope. But to do that and then moan about it, I mean, Declan Rice, we all know he's going to go in the summer. They're going to cash in on him before he goes on a free the year after. But even he's taking shots at him in his post-match press conferences. I can't quote it exactly because I haven't got it in front of me. But he was taking shots at David Moyes as well, sort of underhandedly. And you think, well, if your captain's now saying that, and it's quite clear you've upset a number of players, Skamaka looks void of wanting to play football. He only joined us in the summer. All right, Paqueta's injured, but Ben Rama come in. He's one of those players gets you on the edge of your seat. He doesn't play him, and when he does, he moans that he's taking too many shots or he's not passing enough. It stinks of someone who is, I don't want to say a dinosaur in football, but it sort of seems that way. And when you look at the amount of games he's managed as a Premier League manager, you'd have to say there's got to be something about it for him to have managed that many. But he's lost more than he's won. And the only 2 people above him are Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. And when you think of those, you think they're 2 of the greats of football in the world. They've won everything. Well, almost. But they between them, they've got a humongous trophy haul. You go, the manager in third's got to be similar. Oh, it's David Moyes. He's never won anything in his life. He went to a title-winning side and finished 7th with them. It's all right. There's a bit more to it than that, but change it. Change it. We don't want the discontent we had before, where we got fans coming on the pitch. And if I'm honest, I think that's what they're worried about. If we lose to Nottingham Forest, there'll be an invasion on the pitch. There'll be protests again. And unfortunately for West Ham, we had 2 owners, Gold and Sullivan. David Gold obviously passed away. Unfortunately, out the 2 of them, was the one that that was personable and did support the club and did want to see it win because he played for West Ham, he grew up on Green Street, and now he's gone. All right, his family have taken over that, he's part of it, and we brought in Daniel Krasinski. David Sullivan owns the majority share, and no one wants to work with him. He has an office at the stadium, which we don't own, which no one is allowed in. He'll have guests and make them wait outside the stadium. That's part of the stadium tour. They tell you that because they don't like him. Because whenever he sees a staff, he's rude to them. That's the guy in charge of the club. And are you going to want to come and work with him, knowing that he's fallen out with Sam Allardyce? Seemingly he's fallen out in and out of favour with Moyes, Pellegrini, Bilic. There's not a manager he hasn't fallen out with somewhere along the line. And it pains me. But that's the guy we've got to rely on getting someone in. Because, all right, he's spending some money, but do I want to work with him really? Because he's going to spend money on players he wants to spend money on, not ones I want to. And it's just painful. And part of me hopes we get relegated to try and force his hand of, if we don't get back up, I'm going to lose more and more money here. But that's a really sad state to be in as a fan, to go, if we get relegated, maybe he'll sell it. He might sell it anyway because he can come out penalty free after the deal to take the London Stadium after this season, or in the summer of this year. But it's just like, the grass isn't always greener, but it can't get much worse, surely, for a guy who's that unbearable that everyone leaves.
Yeah,
and it's like, he has put his money where his mouth is, or between the people who own the majority shares that have put their money where their mouths are. Can't fault them for that. I don't disagree with going into London Stadium. I think that was a better move than Upton Park because of being able to upgrade it and things like that. Don't necessarily agree with all the finances of it, but I think if in the last 30 games we've won 10 of them, Premier League games. That's rubbish. Do you know what I mean? That's rubbish. Brighton have got that many wins this season. We haven't played 30 games yet. And it's just, they don't seem to know when to change it or how to change it. I think maybe that's it. He doesn't know how to change it, and he doesn't know who to bring in. Who's going to be better? Michael Carrick. Go and watch the video on the Bearded Hammer channel. I went into Michael Carrick and Rooney, I think, are the top two, in my opinion. But we did make some predictions.
We did.
And seemingly, I get them wrong every week. I do get bets right 10 minutes before I put a bet on, then I win it. But doing it a week before, I'm rubbish. Although I am holding the championship. So, who knows? Maybe I should be sacked. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should be given more time. Mike, what are the current standings and ongoings with that? Now I've ranted about
so we had a prediction last week for the Liverpool-Everton game. Neither of us got any points for that, so that was some points that were in lieu after the game, after we finished recording the podcast last week. So no change there on those from that score front. There were 3 games that we did the predictions for last week: Arsenal versus Man City, Aston Villa versus Arsenal, and then Tottenham West Ham. A game that we were going into with a lot of confidence, I think, for the Manchester City game. And when we got back to 1-1, I thought we might actually do something. But what a drab second half that was. 2 silly mistakes for us to give away those goals, and Erling Haaland doing his thing again. So the score was 3-1. I predicted 2-1 to Arsenal. You predicted 2-1 to Manchester City. So it's a point for you, 0 for me. Aston Villa versus Arsenal. You had 1-0 to Arsenal and I had 2-2. Obviously, up until the 93rd minute, we were still sitting at 2-2 until Jorginho comes up with that absolute scorcher, and then swiftly followed by Martinelli breaking away right at the very end, celebrating before he'd even put the ball in the back of the net, which was really funny. So 1 point to you and 0 points to me. Finally, Tottenham versus West Ham. You had 2-1 to West Ham. I had 1-1 for that one. I think just based on the fact that Tottenham have been very hot and cold throughout the majority of this season. When they are good, they do look good, but then they capitulate very shortly after. But it was 2-0 for that particular game. So 0 points for either of us on that one. So the total points for this week, Ian, you have 2, I have none. So for the final standings for the coveted FIFA Day Trophy, or the FIFA Day Trophy Predictions Trophy, looking very shiny over your left-hand shoulder, I believe.
Yep.
Ian, you are currently on 37, and I am still on 43. So it's all to play for still.
There's still plenty of games to go. There are still plenty of games to go. I've just looked up a stat quick to see. I was just looking through some bits. Big chances missed this season. Who do you think tops that table?
We do, probably.
No, you're 6th.
Oh, okay. Chelsea.
The scary thing is, Mike, Manchester City are at the top of that table with 50 big missed chances.
50?
50.
Fucking
Can
hell.
you imagine if they'd put even half of them away?
That's ridiculous.
Scary, isn't it?
Well, mind you, they looking at the game at the weekend, they probably missed about four decent chances.
Yeah.
Against Nottingham Forest. Can I just say, I absolutely love Nottingham Forest. I think they're an amazing club. I hope they lose against you because, obviously, as I said, guilty pleasure for a West Ham team. But yeah, I absolutely love Nottingham Forest this weekend. Absolute beauts. And if we manage to get revenge over Everton in a couple of weeks or next week, that could put us 5 points clear at the top of the league. And again, it won't be the only blip that we have. There's definitely going to be more bumps in the road for us going towards the end of the season.
But at what point then? So it's just, hypothetically, you win the weekend, you win against Everton, puts you 5 points clear, and that would then be 25 games played. At what point do you start getting excited, feeling those little butterflies in your belly? We're going to lift a trophy this year. Is it the day of? Is it 4 games before? Is it 8 games before? Is it?
Oh, but as soon as it becomes mathematically impossible for us not to be caught, that is the day that I will feel like we're going to win it. But yeah, as you said, we've at that point we'll be 25 games into the season, so there'll be 13 games left. I mean, ask me again when we've got 10 games to go, or maybe 5 games to go. To see where we are. Like I said, we've shown over this month that we are fragile, or we have our fragile moments. There doesn't seem to be that kind of fluidity that we've had over the last couple of weeks. And I know we picked up a couple of injuries with Thomas Partey being out, and but I've got to say, actually, Jorginho, he's looked really good the last couple of games.
He's very calm and collected, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think, like I said, when it becomes mathematically impossible that we can't be caught, at that point I will be over the moon and I will start believing. But still a long way to go. Every cliche, we'll take each game as it comes. Hope for the best and see what happens.
Fair enough.
But yes, moving on to this week's predictions. So there's 2 games this week that we're going to predict. Maybe throw in a third, actually, because we have the Carabao Cup final, I believe, this Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's Newcastle versus Manchester United for that one. So we'll start off with the league matches. And West Ham versus Nottingham Forest. We'll start with you, boys, because obviously we've just been talking about the potential sack race for that one. So I'll let you take that one.
Obviously, Nottingham Forest have got an abundance of players. They brought in the most players this year. I think they brought in like 40 players or something overall across all their teams. And that last minute drawer with Man City will have boosted their confidence. They beat us already, and I think David Moyes is either going to go similar style to what he did against Tottenham and try and play defensively sound, or he's going to go, fuck it, and just go really heavy on the attack, 2 strikers, and we could get opened up that way. As I've always said, the way to beat West Ham is with very simple football. Footballing basically, you pass it straight through the centre of the defenders and you're going to score a goal. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Nottingham Forest, as much as it pains me to say.
I am going to go for... I'm going to go optimistic. I'm going to go 2-1 to West Ham on this one.
We need it. But I don't think that should be enough to save his job, if I'm honest. But we do need the points, so I'd take a 2-1.
Yeah. So yes, that's where I'm going to go on that one. So that leads us on then to Leicester versus Arsenal. Again, another game that could be proved to be quite tricky. Leicester currently sitting in 14th, lost 3-0 to Manchester United at the weekend. We're lucky to have 10 players on the pitch, as you mentioned at the very start of the episode. Again, it's a game where it depends which Leicester turns up for this, because they've showed moments of brilliance throughout the season, but have shown that they can be very inconsistent as well. So I am taking into account the fact that we are playing away.
Yep.
And Leicester have been or proved to be a bit of a bogey team for us in previous years. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go for 3-2 on this one.
To Arsenal.
Arsenal, yes. Sorry.
So... it's a difficult one. When you watched the Leicester Man United game, Leicester had the better of the early chances. And David De Gea kept him in that game with a couple of brilliant saves. I'm going to go with your wobbly form at the minute. I say wobbly form. You've lost 1, drawn 1, lost 1, won 1. Something like in the last 4 or something like that.
Yes.
It's something like that. I'm going to go for a score draw. I'm going to go 2-2 I'm going to go 2-2. I think they might have something a bit more to say. I think they might get an early one and a late one, and you'll control the rest. But yeah, that's 2-2 draw.
Okay. Now the last one that we will do is Manchester United versus Newcastle. Carabao Cup final. I'll let you take the lead on this one.
So we know Nick Pope is he's off. He's not playing. It's unlikely to get a
rescinded.
Yeah, it's unlikely to get rescinded. So Dubravka, who is their number 2 now, can't play because he's played in the Carabao Cup for Manchester United this season. So that leaves it of one of 2 players, Loris Karius, who last played for an English team in the Champions League final that Liverpool lost, where he was...
That with the holy gloves.
Awful, yes. Or Mark Gillespie, who I don't think has played for a long time. His last appearance was in September 2020, where Newcastle drew 1-1 with Newport. So... yeah, it's a difficult one. Both seemingly a little bit ropey. So in that sense, I'm going to go for a Manchester United win, because they rested a number of players after they went 3-0 up. I'm going to go Manchester United 4, Newcastle 1. Part of me wanted to flip it and go, because they've got a really shitty goalkeeper, they've just got to go and score goals and they'll win. But no, I think United will capitalise. The form Rashford's in, I can't see him not scoring against a sub-prime goalkeeper.
Yeah, definitely. I think up until the point where Pope got sent off, I think it was going to be a very interesting game, because Newcastle have frustrated a lot of teams this year. Granted, there have been teams that have frustrated Newcastle, but I think that sending off of Pope at the weekend was the big game changer. for Newcastle. I mean, you never know with Karius, if he is selected for that position, may have an absolute blinder. Let's be honest, couldn't have got any worse than the Champions League final for Liverpool. But I can't see anything other than a Man United stuffing on this one. I'm gonna go 4-0 on this one, I think.
4-0. Interesting. It's a high-scoring game. I don't know if it's actually on TV. Hopefully it is, because it'll be an interesting game to watch.
Sky Sports.
Oh, it is.
4:30 on Sunday.
Very good. Look at that. Very, very good. So yeah, let us know what your predictions are for those particular games in the comment section below over on the YouTube channel. Mike, have you got anything else to add to this week's podcast?
No, nothing from me.
Nothing from me either, apart from the Championship has got more sackings than the Premier League this year. It's got a ridiculous amount. I want to say 18, but I don't think it is quite that many. But it's certainly up there. 18 changes in the Championship so far this season. Almost every one manager for every single team. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Didn't I hear that? What's his name? Neil Warnock's back in management.
I heard this as well, but I don't think he is. I think he's. I think he's turned it down. I don't know if that's true. We'll try and find out maybe for next week. But
absolutely.
I'd have him at West Ham. He wouldn't suffer fools lightly, would he? But yeah, only 14 teams have changed in the Championship, but 18 managers in total. And funnily enough, Neil Warnock was one of those to go. Or was he? No, he wasn't. He's been appointed. He has been appointed the Huddersfield Town manager on the 16th of February.
There you go.
Yeah, crazy stuff. But yeah, so until next week, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
We'll see you very, very soon. Take care.